The following contains spoilers for Silent Hill 2 and both Pathologic games. There's something genuinely remarkable about the atmosphere of Silent Hill 2, but the atmosphere of the Baldwin Manor in particular just oozes out of the screen towards me. It conjures nostalgia for places I've not seen since I was very young, such as couches with floral patterns and large open rooms that are empty in the late evening when I was walking around getting ready for bed, or sneaking around for a late night snack. This place, coupled with the music that fans have dubbed November Flight or the Song of Amy, is the ultimate melancholic trip for me. I miss the flicker of old fluorescent lights coming to life in the dead of night. I miss the way the stairs would creak beneath my feet. I miss the little light that stood like a beacon by the front door. I miss the way the tile floor in the foyer was so cool against my feet. I miss night times that felt like it was literally just me and another human being or two, and the world at large, and all its noise, had faded away. There is so much that I miss. Now, it seems, so much of the daily struggle I face, one of the greatest bits of adversity in my own personal life, is just finding time to appreciate space. I've already released one video so far on Silent Hill 2 Spaces, and I plan to release one more after this one. It's just, people have made who knows how many videos on Silent Hill 2. People have done analysis videos that are so insightful and at times so personal that I feel my own personal thoughts on the game are just adding meaningless noise to an already busy and chattering crowd. It is almost this very anxiety that paradoxically fuels my desire to create these videos. Because to express what Silent Hill means to me is to express something that will live on forever. I always considered my YouTube videos from my very first upload back in 2014 of an Assassin's Creed 4 gameplay segment of all things, something of an archival process, a way to memorialize something for myself. But now, I've started to think longer. These videos are not just for me, are they? And they're not necessarily just for you either. I start to wonder whether these videos will still exist in 20 or 30 years. I start to wonder whether these videos will function as a portal to a person that will no longer exist in that time. I mean, I hope I will still be alive, but I'll be different. We all will be. And these thoughts, these feelings that I have now are passing. All things are fleeting, as they say. I trust you have this figured out by now, but my videos are not intended at any point to be clickbait, to be flashes in the pan. I hope my videos contain evidence of real human feeling, the way in which one man relates to the experiences within them. I think a lot about this a lot of the time, that every video I release is, in some way, a time capsule, that it will still be theoretically available throughout the entirety of my life, provided YouTube continues to exist. Means that I have a responsibility to myself to represent myself and my own thoughts authentically in the moment. The Baldwin Manor inspires these thoughts in me. Think of the way the manor is presented to you. The place is a window into a different time. The aesthetics of the place haunt with their loneliness. Loss is the thing that the manor is built around. There's not a living soul here, or so it seems. You might know that feeling. The feeling of running up orange-carpeted stairs, bounding from foot to foot, of running your hand along the spines of old, mysterious books that mean nothing to you, but everything to the room in the way it feels. Maria in Born from a Wish is a woman who emerges, half-formed, struggling for her own identity. Her own existence is genuinely nightmarish. She is created with almost no agency of her own, from the subconscious desires of a man who murdered his wife. But he's a man who, more likely than not, is actually looking for his wife, not Maria. Maria exists to fill a void that James knows can't be filled by her. The woman he wants to see most isn't here, just a facsimile of her, a taunt, an idealized version that struggles to retain any thoughts of her own. To me, Born from a Wish is the story of Maria finding and then immediately losing her autonomy. But she loses her autonomy by slipping through the fingers of this mansion. She comes to the mansion in search of human contact. She finds nothing but more monsters and ghosts. The monsters that Maria sees are notably the ones who are restrained and sexualized, the lying figure and the mannequin. The lying figure with exposed buttocks and long legs, but a repulsive, miserable, restrained straitjacket of flesh on the top. The mannequin, just two sets of legs perching on one another, both are conjured from James's sexually repressed mind. It might just be a limitation of the game itself, but the fact that these two enemies are the ones Maria meets feels significant, a subtle reinforcement of her place in the universe, a fate that she doesn't seem to have a choice regarding. She gains precious autonomy, then loses it as soon as she seems she might be able to walk away from James, or even just commit suicide. For Maria, whatever she is, her life seems unbearably tragic, denied even the choice to end her life. She exists for James's pleasure, and, to a lesser extent, the player who controls him. She's a character who bounces from mood to mood, place to place, never quite in control of herself. The Manor is a place with nooks and crannies, where one could, if they had the time, rest and recuperate, curl up on the couch and watch the fog roll around hungrily outside the window. Maria, of course, doesn't have any time to herself, not really. She is born from a wish. She is destined to pine for a man who could never truly love her. I think what I regret most is not taking more pictures of the places I miss. I have a few that I took, but that was too little, too late. Photos of already half-empty spaces that appear not to be fully formed, liminal both there and not there. Places filter through my mind like glass. I am awash with senses and memories, but nothing quite seems to stick. I think what I am most terrified of is that the place will one day disappear, and with it, the memories. I remember waking up in the Stillwater in Pathologic for the first time, the mansion of Ava Jan, where you begin the very first game. It had a crisp, autumnal feel to it, a strangely claustrophobic upstairs with an obscurely placed door that meant I did several loops of the large but oddly crushingly narrow room. It was that time, however short, that meant the room left an impression on me. Curtains smother the windows. A desk with books sprawled across it makes me wistful for a place of my own in the countryside in reality, away from any kind of noise or interference. During those hours I wish to immerse myself in something fantastical. Drawers sit next to the bed, empty, I imagine, with a thin layer of dust on the inside. They will, in time, become receptacles for all of the junk I forced the bachelor to pick up over the next week or so. A set of dividing walls makes the room feel slightly larger and even more private than it really is. The Stillwater is the player's home, totally and irrefutably. It is the center of the bachelor's world. You will become intimately familiar with the white stone steps that circle tightly around that take you downstairs. The stairwell is so constricting it feels like a spring. You coil up and down, tightening and unwinding as you descend and ascend. Going up feels like turning a page. You can rest. Going down means you are inevitably going to confront the world. The Stillwater, remarkably, is defined almost by what you can't see, especially in the second game. Doors that will never open are tantalizing. Reminders that what you are playing is, in some small way, incomplete. Sometimes, I map out certain old spaces in my mind. I think of how rooms flow together, of the distance it takes to walk down corridors, of the meaning behind certain choices in the design of a house. A cupboard set into a wall, perhaps, or a window that looks out onto a lush garden but is mostly obscured by a grand tree with big leaves. These are all things I think about. I sometimes fear that my memory will one day become incomplete, or worse, maybe that it already is. I'm making it sound like I could be an internal decorator or an architect. I don't think I could be either, not really. Not for anyone else's home, and perhaps not for anything in the physical realm full stop. No, my memories mix and mingle with the imaginary and the digital. Do you know what it's like to curl up in the corner and treasure a book, or a film, or a game and conjure that experience to life? Somehow, certain experiences transcend imagination and infuse themselves into your surroundings. I remember watching my first horror movie far away from home, crouching behind a low countertop, fearful of what will come next. The edging of the countertop is a light brown wood. The top of the counter is black, speckled with white. The television is fatter than you get nowadays, much fatter. It still glows though. It is almost the only light in the room, aside from a glowing lamp in the corner near to where I am crouched. In these moments, despite my fear, I am the one person in the world. I am the space in between the cone of light and the darkness that swallows everything around it. The Stillwater, in the original Pathologic, has no notable kitchen. No real rhyme or reason to the placement of anything. Why does Ava insist on living in such a strange and open home? Why is one half of the house disconnected from the other? Why can't we open the back door to see the other half of the house? Who would live in such a strange and bizarre place? For Ice Pick Lodge, the answer was simple. Ava would live in that place. Ava, the person of free and gentle spirit. Ava, the person who glows with friendliness and promiscuity. Ava, the person who gives everything to a town that didn't really seem to deserve her despite her perceived eccentricities. This theming is much more explicit in the sequel, where the Stillwater is not just a strange aristocratic mansion, but an observatory. The spring theming, where people become wound tighter and tighter, was an explicit focus of the design team, as well as of the in-game architect Farcard, who designed it. It is people that light places. Were it not for people, I doubt I would remember places with such clarity. Yet when I remember places, I sometimes forget people. In my memories, walking through places, I am alone. You will remember when I said that the Stillwater is your home, irrefutably and totally. I remember the moment it suddenly wasn't. Grief is hard to accomplish in video games. Silent Hill 2 and Pathologic are both games that deal with grief in some respects, and they both deal with it in different ways, but space is an integral part. The Baldwin Manor is a place that has already lost everything. Despite its grand appearance and how it seems to call to me, it is a place that has no people left to give, just ghosts, shells of people, specifically one shell of one person, Ernest Baldwin. He has nothing really to offer Maria, no companionship, not really, not even a human face. He's just a spectre to taunt her, something that can offer her nothing more than empty words, no deeds, just the scrap of a life that ended up in misery after losing his daughter to a terrible fall. Worse, after losing his daughter to that fall when all she wanted to do was make her father a birthday card in secret. It is that loss, however, that created the house as we see it. The garden at the heart of the house, climbing up a secret ladder, straight up the chimney, is fantastical, almost ludicrous. How something like this could ever exist in real life, I'm not certain. But the fact that it exists in a video game is enough. It is imagination transposed into the virtual. It can become real there too. Silent Hill 2 is a grey game. This is not a bad thing. It is a game that is almost choked by bleakness, a visual landscape that crushes the characters and the player. The garden is one of few rare spots of green. It is unabashed, almost uninterrupted green. It is a joy in the heart of the manor, but then of course there is the child's grave to see. The life here is a paradox to the sadness at the heart of the manor. The loss of the people is the loss of the house. The garden makes me feel strange, uneasy depths of uncertain emotion. It is home to the one puzzle in Born from a Wish. You stay here longer because of it. You think, and you ponder, and you wonder which way round you turn these stupid tiles, and the greenery is your accompaniment. Leaving almost feels like a punishment. Ruminating here for days on end must have been what Ernest did. I know, because that's what I did in Pathologic. I returned home to find Ava no longer in her usual spot, standing by her shattered mirror, muttering dreamily about some strange local occurrence. I got the letter then, the letter that indicates that Andre knows she is missing too. So you search, you go out and leave the Stillwater again, rest be damned. You cannot, will not, uncoil today. The spring winds tighter. The plague is washing over town, not monochrome like Silent Hill's delectable fog, but a smear of green, followed by screams and blood-red stains, as well as angels of death pulsing through the streets. Fear is in the air, and there is desperation in my heart as I come to the end of my quest, in the low, marshy steppe. I come to the realization that Ava is dead. She killed herself to give a building life, as it turns out. But, horror of horrors, she gave her life for no reason. She had already given a building life. The Stillwater, in the later days, is inhabited by one of Ava's friends from the steppe. I never felt comfortable with them. and I never felt comfortable there again. I was uncertain of myself, even in this virtual space that I was supposed to be able to inhabit freely. It had been Ava's place. Now it no longer was. I bounced from bed to bed for what remained of the game, hungering for a new place to call home. I never quite could. I have lived a remarkably privileged and lucky life. I should be, and I am, at this very moment, happier than I've ever been. I've accomplished a lot, all things considered, and I am fortunate enough to be with people who love me, and I love them. Yet despite all of this, sometimes my naturally melancholic nature surfaces. Sometimes I am left sitting in the dark, savouring the moments before my eyes adjust and let me see in that darkness. Not sure what it is I crave about those moments. Perhaps, just for a second, a feeling of total solitude. The idea that I am floating ahead, alone, into mystery. I think I am afraid that this video will come across incorrectly. That I have not done justice to the beauty of space and the power of people, and I have waxed purple prose all over the place. I hope that is not the case. The Baldwin Manor reminds me of the places I have lost, of the experiences that I have left forever behind me. Worse, it reminds me of the lack of control I have over those spaces and experiences. Like Maria, I feel beholden to keep moving, but also like her, I feel a strange emptiness for what once was, or what could have been. Something missing. I fear for the unknowns. Sometimes I wonder what will happen to the Baldwin Manor in the remake. Sometimes I have fearful thoughts of the meaning that will be lost, the pure memories that will be erased. Pathologic 2, I must admit, encouraged in me the same fears, but artisanship and thoughtful design from Icepick Lodge meant that space there was not lost, just changed, refitted for a new purpose, moulded into a new shape. The Stillwater in 2 as an observatory is perhaps even more fit for purpose. Perhaps Silent Hill 2's remake will offer a similar experience. It won't erase the old, rather conjure new memories, new ideals. Maria is the perfect character for the manor. She drifts through, ghost-like herself, conjured from a dream, bumping into a ghost who has a dead dream that can never work. He has relinquished his humanity and so relinquished hold of his space. Ava, on the other hand, relinquished voluntarily, throwing herself from the cathedral rooftop for what she saw as a noble purpose. The cathedral itself is austere, unwelcoming. It is grey and gothic, even black and foreboding. A strange face marks the wall, one I've never actually seen any explanation for, and strange masks wait there. It is a place of judgment, not of any kind of sentiment. Maybe that is what I deal in. Maybe I am a sentimentalist, at least when it comes to memories so coloured by places. Maybe I am a sentimentalist in this video alone. Video games are uniquely powerful because they let us inhabit a space. The best ones let us explore and find our own meaning in those spaces. They let us experiment, poking around in dusty nooks and crannies. They let us make our own small judgments about the place. We imprint ourselves on places we go to. Even empty fields of grass can hold special meaning to us. Nights in bed with those we love, or just days sitting at the table working on something that means a lot to you. These memories are influenced by where we have them. Video games, as simulations of space, allow for perfect or imperfect constructions of ideas. Moods and feelings can be tweaked endlessly by skilled designers until you feel just as they want you to feel in certain places. Unexpected relief in corridors without monsters lurking. A strange feeling of safety as you look out the thin glass of the observatory window and see plague clouds buzzing just out of reach outside. If there is one thing you draw from this video, if there is one thing you carry with you into the future, let it not just be an appreciation for what goes into making a space. My previous video on the Lakeview Hotel restaurant was partly that. No, I wanted this video instead to be about an appreciation for how a space can imprint on you and how you can imprint on a space. I wanted this video to be something personal. I want you to take away from this video that every space can mean something, that no matter how small or large, no matter how innocuous or important, places fill up our memories, and it's hard to let go. Another few memories then, before I go. I'm 13, maybe 14 years old. I'm watching the house, illuminated by a sunny day, recede in the back window of the car. I remember it as one of the most beautiful days in terms of weather of my whole life, but in my heart I'm not sure what to feel. I'm not sure I know what I've just lost. I press my hand to the window before the angle means I can no longer see it. Maria moves through a house that seems long abandoned, searching for comfort for a human person. She finds things that remind her of others, a teddy bear that reminds her of a child she has never met and will never meet. She sets up a set of candles in the middle of a dusty, tragic attic and lets the light waver gently around her. It is the movement of candlelight that is so exquisite. But in the end, she is the figment of a man's imagination and sadly leaves the manor to find him. She leaves the place behind and maybe never thinks of it again. Bachelor Daniil Dankowski tries to sleep in a bed that just yesterday was comfortable. Below he can hear the sounds of unfamiliar footsteps, trying to find their footing in an unfamiliar house. A house that once felt familiar to the both of them. When he finds his sleep is restless, he gets up and opens the drawers. They're lined with medicine and junk. He begins to take them out, thinking of the memory that is lightly attuned to each one. I found this one in the westernmost bin, in the park in the mouth, he thinks. He remembers the funny coloured pills. He traded a little girl several needles and a hazelnut or two for it. He wonders where the girl lives, if she sleeps comfortably in the middle of this despair. When his bag is full, he slips away. The house recedes behind him, but he cannot look back. The cathedral looms. I am watching the stars one deep night, the night after my first horror film, if you remember. I am shaken, but the stars, those are the salve to the uncertainty I feel. I am standing in the study, a long room with a narrow ceiling at the very top of this strangely shaped house, my family's house. The telescope, which is angled to the pensive heavens, is some of my first understanding of life. The night has been a strange juxtaposition of terror and beauty. I am almost asleep, but I am very alive. My hands feel for the cool metal of the telescope as I watch. I am staring at the heavens, rooted in the earth, rooted in this place. I am sitting in front of a computer, speaking into a microphone. I am thinking of every place I have ever been to, of every world that has ever meant something to me. I am thinking of grey fog draped over a small town in the country I may never even visit, that reminds me of the melancholy I struggle with always. I am thinking of plague clouds nestling in the gutters of a bizarre house I came to love strangely quickly. I am thinking of a telescope after a long and perhaps terrifying night. I am thinking of beauty even in the face of overwhelming horror. I am thinking of withdrawing now to these strange little towns, in these strange little mansions, and living in memory for a while longer. Good night, everyone. Look out for each other.